Hello, I hope you enjoyed that little montage of random clips that I put together. I hope you enjoyed the cereal pouring. So my name is Dylan and I am a student at Payap University in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And the purpose of this video is to make up for a presentation I was supposed to perform live in school, but a virus kind of wiped out my thumb drive. Not exactly wiped out, it hit all my files so I couldn't access them on the day itself. And yeah, so this video is supposed to make up for that. So what am I going to talk about? Well, I'm going to talk about the two Englishes of Singapore. I had to write a whole research paper about that, and this presentation is meant to accompany that research paper. So a quick peek at the Wikipedia page for the Republic of Singapore will tell you that it is an island of southern Malaysia and that it has 4 official languages: English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil. But if you on a street in Singapore, is that really all you would hear? Although not as famous as its lexifier and ancestor English, the language that is most arguably spoken on Singapore is in fact Singlish. In technical terms, Singlish is known as Singapore Colloquial English. But no one says that, but that's what it's called. So in this presentation, I want to explore the arrival of the English language in this faraway island in Southeast Asia, its development into Singlish, and the languages that contributed to this development, and the contrast in the roles of both Englishes in Singaporean society today. So without further ado, let's get started. British colonization of Singapore began with this guy, Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles. He arrived in Singapore in 1819 and he signed a treaty with Temenggong Abdul Rahman also in 1819, which permitted the British to set up a trading post in Singapore. This was against the wishes of his masters in London and also against the wishes of the Dutch, who claimed that the island was theirs because they owned the Sultan of Johor. So Raffles was a little scheming and he kicked the Sultan of Johor out and put another Sultan of Johor in. So the new Sultan of Johor now belonged to the British, so Singapore now belongs to the British. This began 140 years of colonial rule, starting from 1819 up till the merger with Malaysia in 1963. Naturally, rule under Britain meant that the language of administration would be English. And so the tiny British station later grew to become one of Britain's most prosperous possessions in the Far East, attracting a huge influx of immigrants from China, India, and other parts of Malaya. Among the local population, which became a multiracial society, the educated became proficient in the English language, with some Chinese speaking it natively, just like me. What happened to English in Singapore was that it was creolized, which created what we call Singlish now. Creole languages begin as pidgins. A pidgin of English is born when a non-native English-speaking population, usually multicultural, uses their second language English as an interlingua. Over time, this simplified English becomes stabilized. However, a pidgin is never someone's first language. This is where creoles come in. Creoles develop from a pidgin when the pidgin starts to become the first language of the population. Creoles often become lingua franca of the communities where they are spoken in, which also explains their widespread use in Singapore now. Both Singlish and its Malaysian twin, Manglish, also known as Malaysian Colloquial English, developed from British English roots, which is not surprising considering that that was the only official form of English spoken in Singapore and Malaysia during the colonial period. It is interesting to note that other British colonies where new Englishes have surfaced are demographically similar to Singapore and Malaysia in that there is a European administration, but the bulk of the population is in fact non-English speaking peoples. Now, before the arrival of English, a Malay Creole known as Bazar Malay or Pasar Melayu in the Malay language was the lingua franca of the region. And this Malay Creole has lent numerous loan words into modern Singlish. So let us look at some of the contributions of other languages in the area to Singlish. An interesting fact to know is that Singlish and Manglish are very similar, to the point that if you speak Singlish while in Malaysia, you may very well be mistaken for a local. However, there are subtle differences, and most of these differences exist in the loan words that are used. For example, the Manglish spoken in Kuala Lumpur would include more Cantonese and Malay loan words than Singlish does, because among the Chinese in Kuala Lumpur, the majority of them belong to the Cantonese group, whereas in Singapore the majority belong to the Hokkien or Fujianese group. So a look at some common Malay words in Singlish. Some of them, a few examples would be babi, which means pig, can be used to refer to pork as well. Teruk, which means terrible, an adjective. Pasar malam, which means night market. Agat, which means estimate. And bodoh, which can be used as both noun and adjective to denote stupidity. You can call somebody, "Hey, you bodoh lah," to tell them they're dumb. Or you can say, "Why are you so bodoh one?" which is basically saying, "Why are you so stupid?" And aside from these, there are also some original coinages that have appeared in Singlish. One of them is Abu Dan, which is a very sarcastic remark, which is in fact a combination of the English word then and the Malay word for what, apa. So apa plus then became Abu Dan due to pronunciation corruption by Chinese speakers, I suppose. And another interesting word is a phrase, in fact, actually more of a phrase, is yaya papaya, which is a way we call a person who is very arrogant and stuck up. It comes from the Malay word yaya plus English papaya, which people find humorous because it rhymes. Now let us take a look at the roles that both Singlish and English play in Singapore today. The government very much frowns upon the use of Singlish. The first Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, this guy, has said that Singlish is a handicap which we must not wish on Singaporeans. He was of the opinion that there is only a limited capacity in our brains to store language data, and that it would be a waste of storage space to store Singlish information in our heads. He also believed that Singlish would hinder the learning of Standard English. The Prime Minister that succeeded Lee Kuan Yew, Goh Chok Tong, has argued that Singlish makes it very difficult for outsiders to comprehend Singaporeans, and that this would negatively impact the economic progress of the nation. And hence, on the 29th of April in the year 2000, the Speak Good English movement was formed to combat and eradicate Singlish. Singlish in television has also been censored in more recent productions. An older sitcom called Phua Chu Kang has enjoyed stellar popularity in Singapore because of the abundant use of Singlish. Phua Chu Kang is so well known that it has become a household name. Everybody who's anybody knows that show. In contrast, a more recent television drama called The Pupil seems to be more obscure. The drama makes capital use of British accented English. In my opinion, the characters in the show seem to be very unnatural with their foreign accents and technically foreign language. I think the difference in popularity between these two shows is because the characters in Phua Chu Kang are easier for Singaporeans to relate to because they speak the same language as us, whereas the characters in The Pupil seem to be alien. This comparison also shows the popularity of the Singlish language in Singaporean society, which has continued to flourish despite all the efforts made by the government so far. The government also calls Singlish ungrammatical and corrupt. However, Singlish has shown to have established rules of grammar and system. For example, the particle la cannot be used at the end of a question. Many foreigners mistake la as a random funny word they can tag on to the end of any sentence to sound Singaporean, but that is not the case. There are rules. This feature of Singlish is unlike the broken English spoken by second language learners of Standard English, which exhibit no solid rules of grammar. Hence, the matter of Singlish grammaticality is very simple. Singlish has a grammar, and this grammar is different from Standard English's. The notion that Singlish is ungrammatical English is simply rubbish. There is no scientific linguistic backing to it. And so, we've seen the arrival of the Anglo-Saxon tongue on the island of Singapore with British colonization, the development into Singlish and the influence of other languages on the development, and the status of Singlish today. So, goodbye and I'll see you when I see you.
While I was recording this video, it seems I had forgotten to talk about the difficulties I faced while writing my research paper. Fortunately, I have some leftover miscellaneous clips for your viewing pleasure while I speak. Excuse the poor sound quality as I have not gotten around to buying a real microphone yet. I am recording on my phone. I think it sounds vintage. Here is a picture of a telephone to help set the mood. So let's get on to it. The difficulties I faced during research. Unlike most of my classmates, I did not have any issues with time management during the actual research, but editing the video was very difficult. I spent many nights for about a week working to the wee hours of the morning on this video. I've encountered some problems such as lighting and of course missing footage, which is why I'm speaking into my phone right now. Another difficulty is in finding credible sources. I did not look to YouTube because if I looked to YouTube, I ended up watching stuff like this.
A handshake is making a promise, a commitment. A tall order means I must meet that tall order, and it's for you. And it's for you. In the sense that three fingers also pointing me, it's also for me. It's for us. And if the result is good, thumbs up, man. If the result is lousy, what happened? Boo! Boo! John
It is also nigh impossible to find any sources on the subject in the libraries in Chiang Mai. I've had to turn to the internet for all of my sources, which I will list in the description below. And so, I thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative, and because everyone on YouTube says this, please like, subscribe, and comment. I don't really exactly need your subscriptions or likes or comments, but I'm still gonna ask anyway. So if you want to, please do. And before I go, here is a blooper reel for your amusement.
Now, let us discuss politics. War in the Middle East, 9/11. Why? He do like that, I very paiseh. He was also of the opinion that there is a limited capacity in our minds. Oh, I didn't say that, I already recorded that, okay. The notion that This also shows the popular over time, thyme leaves, herbs, spaghetti.